Let's move into another very important segment of our or sector of our economy. I recall that in the last administration there was so much talk about the need to diversify, and when you talk about diversification in Nigeria here, you're looking at the potentials there in agriculture. Across Nigeria, if you travel around Nigeria, you discover that Nigeria produces a whole lot of crops, but then at the end of the day, how many of these crops make it outside the shores of this country? Do we gain FX even from this country? And some people would argue that we even struggle to feed ourselves here in Nigeria. So much was said about the rice boom in the past administration and all of that. But then today we're looking at another important aspect of agriculture, and that is technology. You know, how can we use technology to improve farm yield? I recall that a couple of years ago, the conversation was all about mechanized farming, using tractors and all of that to achieve, to farm vast lands and all of that. But right now, we're in a period where tech is basically taking over everything. I mean, you can hardly do anything right now without the intervention of tech. So today on the show, we are going to be looking at agricultural production using tech to improve farm yield. And our guest today in the house, he's simply a farmer. He's simply a farmer, I'll put it that way. You can hardly tell if he's a farmer though, but then he is the CEO of Farm Tech Africa. It's a pleasure to have Udeme Johnson in the studio. Udeme Johnson, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. So here we are today, and the 21st century, and we're beginning to see the level of innovation, you know, as far as technology is concerned, how technology is beginning to permeate every sector of our lives and all of that. And here we're talking about agriculture. So when you hear that tech can be used to improve farm yield, I'm still struggling with that. I'm wondering exactly how that is going to happen. Is it via the GMOs? How exactly is this going to happen in the first instance?
Okay, so thank you, Andona, for your question. There are a lot of ways tech will improve yield and improve our food security situation. Fundamentally, tech is, like you said, is in every space, and in agri it has quite literally taken over, from mechanization to extension services, to climate smart technologies, which is an area I specialize in. So there's a lot going on this space. I mean, we could spend the whole day talking about that, but I just want to narrow it down to maybe the climate smart thing, which is my specialty. Or maybe let me start with extension services. So you can use technology to track your extension workers these days, see that they are doing what they should do when they should do it. That's for extension service. And for farmers directly, we have a product that is called an innovative crop calendar from Farm Monitor. Now, so what this technology does is very simple. It picks up data from weather, from satellites, from the soil situation, and even in-situ data as is gathered from the field, and is able to make recommendations to farmers to tell the farmers when exactly to do what. So I give a very practical instance. You weren't supposed to see it if it doesn't rain, and the essence of the rain is to moist your soil to a certain degree. All right. Now, if it doesn't rain and that soil is not that moist, you shouldn't see it. However, there are many times the rain doesn't fall as planned. So what the calendar does is it takes that information, it takes when it rains, takes it vis-a-vis the soil situation, and tells the farmer, plant on this date. And if you shouldn't plant on that date, it will still move it to a better date, so that that crop it can yield at its potential, because every single crop has an environment or a circumstance, so to speak, that it's supposed to be in to have maximum yield. So one of the reasons why we've not been yielding is because a lot of our farmers are, 70% of our farmers are smallholder farmers, and they are not exposed to this technology. The extension services that are supposed to take this technology input, all of that down to them, it's almost been moribund. Statistics show that it's just 22% that is functional in a country like ours. And so so technology like that helps improve yield. Again, like I said, the extension service themselves need to be properly monitored, because there's this much talk about mechanized farming, and I totally agree with mechanized farming. I think mechanized farming is huge, but because of the peculiarity of our circumstance, we are not First, our land use tenure doesn't really allow for that. Again, 70% of the farmers are smallholder farmers who are just farming small plots in their villages. What are you going to do? Crash them together to have a large farm, to have a contiguous farm? It's not workable. Our situation, and I always advocate that we solve problems based on the circumstance. If we have 70% smallholder farmers producing 90% of our total output, we should focus there. Let the mechanized people do the mechanization till such a time.
Interestingly, sorry to interject. Interestingly, while you were speaking, it also struck me because if we have more of peasant farmers in the country, smallholder farmers like you put in the country, why not focus on them? Now, I'm not even talking about the area of technology yet because technology for now may be a bit distant from them. But how do we start bridging the gap? Bringing these smallholder farmers into that phase where they understand what technology is and even embrace it, so to say.
So again, let me even say this from what you said, it's not so far-fetched. There is technology, they are using phones now. The phone penetration in the country has gone up. We had elections in those villages. So why would we think technology is far-fetched? It's not. It's the same technology so for instance, in Farm Monitor, it's the same kind of technology where whatever you are doing on the field is seen on the screen in real time. That's what we did during election now. So it's the same thing. And you can even use this thing when there is no network. And when you get into where there is network, it syncs. So the point is, technology is not far-fetched. We just need to invest in agriculture, educating these people. And the best bridger of that gap is the extension service workers. Now, so let me give you a bit of history. ADPs, for instance, or let me even start from the beginning. We have 34 million hectares of arable land in Nigeria. We have just about 14,000 to 16,000 extension workers across the country. If you do the math, we are shorting somewhat about 150,000 extension workers. That means as it is in Nigeria now, we can confidently and comfortably employ 150,000 people as extension agents. Because one extension agent is supposed to do at the most 250 farmers, call it 250 hectares. Now, but we are shorting this much and the farmers don't know any better. So we need to revitalize extension service. That is the only bridge. Education is it. Now, so we keep solving all of these problems, and it's not in agriculture only, unemployment and all of that. All of these issues are just mere indicators of a real problem. They are just mere symptoms of a real problem. The real problem is that we don't know. We are not educated. If the populace were educated, unemployment will not be an issue because they'll be able to generate things by themselves because they know better. It's the same thing with agriculture. Our farmers will do better if they know better. And the way to get them to know better is to actually send people down. How many people are graduating from Department of Agric and Extension Service in Nigeria, across Nigeria? Do you know that? Even if we're engaging only those ones, and we provide them with the PPE, with the protective gears, give them the tablets they need, and send them to the fields, Nigeria will be a lot more productive. In fact, I personally think that all of what we are doing in agriculture, the real driving engine is the extension workers. And until we go back to getting them, funding them, and getting those, because extension service is almost moribund in Nigeria, until we get back to funding them and moving them back into the field, our farmers won't do any better. Our national yield average in rice is 1.5 ton or 2 ton at the max, as versus a potential of 4 ton. So as it is now on rice production, we are 35%.
David, back to you. I guess this subject will definitely interest you, Dave. Back to you. I guess this subject will definitely interest you.
It is interesting. When we look at where we are as a people, we look at our human ability, our human capacity, and we also begin to look at government's inability to create employment. And it's really sad that we've talked so much about diversifying the economy. However, there are a lot that has been left undone, a lot that could have been done. Just maybe if Nigerians get the right push, the right incentives, the right environment, the right funding just maybe the whole concept of food security, the whole concept of World Food Day and food security would be, a walk in the park for us as a people. It's so good having Udeme with you in the studio. I mean, if every farmer is like Udeme, I want to be a farmer. I also want to be a farmer. If all farmers will be looking like Udeme right there in the studios. Well, that's on the lighter note. But then, Udeme, what particular call would you want to make? Because it's important we begin to put in the right policies. We begin to put in the right incentives. So much has been said about people going back to the farm. So much has been said about agriculture being the next oil for Nigeria. However, we are not seeing the corresponding push, the corresponding encouragement, the corresponding incentive, the corresponding policies that could encourage and probably motivate Nigerians to take to farming.
Okay, so thank you for your question. I think the first thing is security. Again, I like to say that's a no-brainer. We already know the security challenge. Once we can get that right, I'm sure a lot more people will get back to that. I know a lot of farmers that have left the farm, huge farmers that have left the farms because they don't want to be kidnapped. All right, so that is not, that conversation alone is a huge conversation. But again, the next thing is funding. Like you said, it's surprising that we are ready to fund every other thing outside agriculture. The president declared a state of emergency in agriculture. I'm not sure funding has been released for anything in that emergency. So what's the emergency about? We need to be able to push money into agriculture. And it's not just about giving input. Input is just one element. We've gotten fixated with inputs, seeds, and those are very fine, because if you don't have the right seed, the thing won't grow. So obviously there is need for seed. But there is also need for the farmers to get these things on time, to get whatever they are asking for on time. You can't provide these things after the end of the season. So we need a proper planning system that makes input or whatever it is we are providing available to the farmers on time. And that is why I'm advocating our revamp of the extension system. So let me explain how that should work. An extension officer should be responsible for the set of farmers under him from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. So from when government is planning input, it should be planned around those extension service providers. It shouldn't be planned in spite of them. It should be planned inclusive of them so that they bear the responsibility of the national productivity. Now, so if you do that, you see that they will be able to now monitor what's going on the field. The same person that was bringing the same inputs to the farmer will be the same person monitoring the farmer, and will be the same person responsible for harvest and aggregation, and maybe sending it to the store or sending it to the aggregator or sending it to the national storage. Now, so when we have that level of planning and synchrony in the system, because there's a lot of this one is doing that. So I'll give you an instance. We're working with an organization, I won't mention the name, and so we're providing our farm monitoring services to them. And at the end, towards the end of the season, that was just late last month, government, some arm of government brought in input to them. And as of September, that input should have been used sometime in July, June. So you see, there was no coordination. So we need a coordinated system towards agriculture. We are not having that. We have so many arms of government doing so many different things, and they are not all sitting on the same table. So this person thinks this person is doing that, and that is not doing what he ought to do. So first, we need that coordination. So we need security, we need that coordination, we need a lot of funding. We need a lot of money, because you see, input supply, provision of extension workers, all of that costs money. One of the reasons why the extension service crashed was because of poor funding. In fact, from research, it's shown that that's the main reason why it crashed, because of poor funding. So we need the coordination, and we need to get people to actually be responsible for it on the field. And again, that still goes back to extension service, which is a service we provide. We provide a system that actually tracks this extension service that they are on. So it's called Step Tracker, and then we geofence them into an area. So you can't give us data and input service, or you can't give us data outside that your geofence location. All of that is just an audit system to ensure that, of course, they are doing what they ought to do. And if you are giving data, the data must have some sort of integrity, at the least 80% integrity. So once we can get security, we get funding, we get coordination right, I think that every other thing all the input we are giving, all the mechanization, all of them will be better utilized. That's my opinion.
I can't agree any less with you on that. You know, whilst you were speaking, I was looking at a few materials online. I was looking at AgriTech. I'm looking at materials for modern farming. I'm looking at the cost of the cost of modern farming in Nigeria. So for me, these are some very huge conversations that we should be having. Tech is an amplifier. Tech is an enabler of virtually every sector. So you are a tech agri personnel. I'm trying to look for the right word. Where you operate within the agri space using technology. I think that's a lot better. What have been that challenge that you think players like you, tech companies like yours are facing that you probably would need an immediate interventions about?
Okay, so let me go specific on myself. I run Farm Monitor Africa. So Farm Monitor Africa runs a platform that tracks, monitors, manages, measures, and improves farmers' productivity and performance. While for the farmer financiers, we provide real-time visibility so they can see what's going on their project. You have a lot of financiers, both impact and profit financiers. So for impact financiers, those are like the INGOs that are just giving farmers money to improve their welfare, and then profit-oriented, like the banks, they want to get back their money, even if they are not making profit, but at least they want to get back their money. We provide real-time visibility using a lot of tools, satellites, drones, and all of those kinds of things. Our main challenge, like again, it goes back to security. You can't, and security now in two ways, both external and internal. So the kind of investment we've done in agriculture, you can't take your eyes off those tools or anything, because if it's stolen or anything, and it's usually the case. So for instance, our soil sensors, we've got to be really careful, because if you just keep it around, anybody will take it. We've resorted to a BioRugged tablet that doesn't make calls, because if you give a phone that makes call to farmers, you won't see the phone. So we now use a tablet that is useless to you except for the agricultural purpose. All right. So outside security is funding. I read on the Minister of Minister of Innovation and Technology, Dr. Busun. There's a grant that was put out, I think on his LinkedIn, and the grant offered, I think, $5,000 US. And I'm like, $5,000 US? That's without meaning to brag. That's what I pay within my space in a month. So if you are giving a grant to develop an AI system of 5,000, what's that supposed to do exactly? We need to be realistic with what we are doing. If a foreign organization was giving the same grant, it will be running into at least $250,000 US, because that is realistically what you need to run a technology research, for instance, in maybe 1 year. Because the tech space as it is very expensive. And that still goes back to what I said, what our challenge is. We need to be funded. Not necessarily me, but we need the agricultural space to be funded like the roads are funded, for instance. You know, so one would say the roads are funded because you can see, but I mean, all of the forex dwindling is, we are taking 2 billion naira to pay for wheat annually, $2 billion to pay for wheat annually. That alone is impacting our forex. If we pulled that resource together and empowered farmers, we will produce that. We have the land mass. We have the human resource, we have the farmers. All the ingredients for productivity is there. It is just that we haven't done what we know we should do. And that's what I would like to encourage government to do for the tech space generally. So invest a lot more in the tech space, but don't invest in the tech space if you are not ready to invest in the extension space, because what will bridge the gap, what will actually make the tech space functional, is that the farmers on the field are using the technology, whether it's mechanization, whether it's AI, like we provide an AI system, so our system runs on a lot of algorithms. Whatever system technologically that you are providing to the farmers, you need the extension agent to be able to take it down to them, because you can provide it like we have it. We are quite literally having to engage extension agents to push our products to the field. So that's it. We need funding, we need governments to take care of security, and we need governments to be able to invest in extension services, so that whatever it is we are doing, and whether it is in technology, whether it's in research, whether it's in improved seed, whatever it is that the farmers need, it can be gotten down to them through the extension services.
All right, quite a number of issues have been raised here by Udeme Johnson as we still talk on the topic production using tech to improve farm yield. So you can always call in. The lines will be displayed on the TV screen for you to call in, talking about our viewers to call, and you can ask Udeme a question or perhaps make a comment as well in the course of the program. But then, Mr. Udeme, I also want to talk on some specific areas. You have dwelt so much on extension and monitoring and all of that, but I also have concerns around the issues of fertilizer and all, and even the GMO. GMO has been a very contentious issue, not just in Nigeria here, but across the world. How can we use tech to ensure that the right seeds are planted and the right sort of fertilizers are used as well?
Okay.
Because even when it comes to the issue of fertilizers, people still have a bit of concern, have expressed concern about, take for instance, I'll give you a very simple example. The spinach we use, the popularly known aleho or foriro leaves and all of that, you know, some would tell you that the one with fertilizer, which is big, greener and all of that, is not as tasty as the one planted behind the backyard, at the backyard, you know. So these are the sort of arguments we have to deal with. So how do we use tech to bridge this gap?
Okay, so that's exactly what we are doing as an organization. Interestingly, I don't know any other sector that is as complex as agric, with too many unknown unknowns, and too many, even the known unknowns are still unknown unknowns. The agric sector is so complex, with so many things influencing it, from pests, from diseases, and all of those kinds of things. Now, because there are too many things, and the flip side is that agric is supposed to be a science, which means that 1 + 1 always should be equals 2. So meaning that when you plant a 4-ton potential seed, it should actually give you 4 tons. But like I said, because of all of these several things that encumber it and affect it, you don't have it. And that's why we are using technology.
All right, sorry, I'm going to pause you. Ada is calling from Plateau State. Ada?
Hello.
Is calling from,
Good morning. It's Ada. I'm calling from just Plateau State.
Hello, Ada. Please go ahead.
Yes, the farmer Udeme. In fact, when you talk that joke, it was what crossed my mind too. Most people, when they see farmers, the mentality is that they look haggard, their skin is dry, they don't look well like Udeme. So I say thumbs up to Udeme. That's by the way. There should be a paradigm shift on linking adequate food production to rainfall in Nigeria. I feel so sad that we keep linking farming to rainfall in this 21st century. We should look at farming, food insecurity holistically if we are to put an end to food insecurity, which is confronting us as a nation. The following challenges must be addressed: poor land tenure system, low level of irrigation farming, climate change, land degradation, low use of technology, inadequate training, high production costs, poor distribution of inputs, limited financing, and even when the financing is there, most times it's politicized. It's given to political farmers and not the real farmers like Udeme. Then above all, the high level of insecurity, because there's much we're even doing now. Most farmers cannot go to their farms because of insecurity. Some of them are killed on their farms, even on the plateau. It's always happening every other day. It's unfortunate that 56% of Nigeria's arable lands remain unexploited because of the shortcomings I stated earlier on. So the government of the day must do something. Agriculture is one area that can provide employment. The governments at all levels, that is the state level and all that, they can have government land, which they can now introduce mechanized farming there. So that will now attract the youth. Using hoe, most youth will not want to go the way of hoe. And even the NYSC we are talking about now, they can mobilize them, to be going to their farm, mechanized one. That's the way to go. The problem is that nobody wants to think outside the box. Everybody's eyes on the oil that is already there in Nigeria. That's all. Even the minerals under the ground, the gold. Some countries, their economy is output of gold. But in Nigeria, they say if you go to Zamfara, when there's heavy rain, you just see the gold. You don't even have to dig so far. And yet, they can't harness it and go and be sharing it at Abuja since they don't want to take care of it. All the cement market for Nigeria, all they are doing.
All right, thank you so much, Ada. Thank you. Thank you, Ada. So I don't know if we have more callers, but we'll be taking more calls. Udeme, you heard all Ada.
Yes.
Ada said, but you were saying something about the tech and seeds and all of that.
Okay, so let me complete my thoughts on that, and then I'll address what Ada said, because she said a couple of things that are quite critical. So what we now do is what we do as an organization. What one of our products, the Farm Monitor product, does is it takes all of these things, all of these elements, and there are several of them. So currently we use 14 different elements and run an algorithm that tells what is wrong. So at the end of the day, based on climate and all of those several factors, we can synthesize out what is wrong. Is it the fertilizer that didn't make that crop yield, or is it that the person used a poor seed? Now, why this is important, and like I was telling my friend, is that if we had been generating this kind of data 10, 20 years back, we would be in a better place. But because we haven't had this kind of data, we are now having to still go by trial by error. So that's why we've now taken the pains to say, no, we want to gather all our lessons learned and use this to improve using AI, because you can't, it's not something that you're going to just use mere thoughts to do. You have to be able to write some algorithm that can run those kinds of systems. So based on that, we can take all of those things, all of those concerns, including the human factor, to say this is what is wrong on this farm, and this is what is wrong on this farm, and it's very farm specific, so it's not a general thing. So on your farm, based on the data of what's going on your farm, we are able to tell you what's wrong and what you should do to improve. So that's specifically what we are doing with tech to improve yield. So to go back to what Ada said, she said something quite critical, it's irrigation. And yeah, that's another major thing, because it's, again, I like saying it's just common sense. If we are producing this much during the rainy season, we can do more.
Sorry, permit me to pause you again. Idehe from Edo State is with us. Idehe, please go ahead. Idehe from Edo State is with us. Idehe, please go ahead.
The problem about farming in this country, especially Edo State here, there is no road to the farmland. No, there's no road to the farmland. Not only security problem. There's no road to the farmland. Everybody farm near house instead of to go to the forest. There's no road. If somebody farms, then you now harvest. If you want to bring the crops down to the market, you cannot use head. You cannot use head to carry all the whole crops to the market. So there is no road to the farmland. If government construct road around the whole farmland, it will be easy for farmer to farm. Because once you don't harvest your crops, and there's no vehicle cannot go there, motorcycle cannot go there, you cannot use hair to carry on. That is the problem we have, especially in Edo State here. If somebody farm this year, if there is road to the farmland, and if you farm for 2 years, you can be able to buy more to go to the farm and carry your fruit, your crops to the market. That is the problem we have in Edo State.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right, Udeme, you see you had a line of thoughts. Continue with your line of thoughts, Udeme.
Incidentally, what he said still dovetails into the line of thought is generally put as agri-infrastructure. So both the roads, the irrigation, all of that is classified under agri-infrastructure. So it's the same thing. If we are able, so let me go with irrigation first. If we are producing what we are producing during the rainy season, which is just one season, and we have a chance to do it 2 times a year, it simply means we can double our productivity by introducing irrigation. Now, we must understand that the cost of irrigation is very high. In fact, the cost of irrigation can quite literally double your EOP. So EOP means economics of production. So whatever it takes for you to farm one crop, only that item on that farming budget can double your cost in producing that crop. So I usually would advocate that infrastructure is something government must handle. It's not negotiable because farmers will not be able to handle it in their budget. So roads, irrigation, these are heavy investments that must be made in agriculture by governments particularly. And I also dare say, development partners, yes, grants are given and funding is given. However, I think it is time for them to also look at developing infrastructure for farmers. What is usually done is give the farmers water pump. And that's what is generally done. And that still goes back to just buying small things for farmers that don't last. We need a sustainable system. So if we go to Egypt, for instance, the entire place has been irrigated and is a desert because government has invested in it. It's the same thing with India. And we run an agricultural system the closest people to us in our kind of system is India. But India is doing very well because those are things government has taken care of. Infrastructure, irrigation, making sure that there are roads. So again, why roads are very key, like he said, is we have a lot of, I think 42% post-harvest lost in Nigeria. 42. So even the little that we are producing, before it leaves the farm to where we can even make money, we've lost them. So I don't know, but I really do believe that once we can have some bit of coordination, and I believe this is the responsibility of the Ministry of Agric. I know that there are lots of other players like the Central Bank and a lot more other players within that space, but we need, so it's like a football team. We need a number 10, somebody to just stay at the center and make sure that every other person is playing by the rules, is playing by a calendar. So there has to be a seasonal calendar across the nation. Yeah, the entire state may not run the same calendar because when it starts raining in the south where I come from, it's different from when it starts raining in the north. But we need that coordination. We need that system where everything around that space, see, what cannot be measured cannot be managed. If we are not careful to begin to measure and manage what we are doing, we will not be productive. You know, we have statistics being thrown around here, left and right and center, but if you really look at the source of those statistics, they are basically from research.
Yeah,
and there is a limit to
still
which
come
a
with
person
you. We have
will
a few callers waiting on the phone lines. Let's speak with Omoro Dion. Omoro Dion from Edo State has a question for our guest. Good morning, Omoro Dion. Okay, we lost that call. Let's now speak to Samuel. Samuel, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, speak to us, Samuel.
Yeah, good morning to your guest.
Good morning.
I think on the agriculture issue, the major problem now in Nigeria is insecurity. I'm from rural area. Everyone is complaining about herdsmen, Boko Haram will not allow you to test your farm. And if you take the case of Benue, for the whole of the last administration, they were complaining about they can't go to their farmland. And here the same complaint all over in Ondo State. So it is a major problem now. I think the present government, if they want to and move this country forward, they should tackle insecurity so that farmers will go to their farm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. So, Udeme, there is a part of the conversation that I'm hoping that you would address, which was something that Ada made mention about. Off-season farming is a high level of mechanized farming, which is something that I think we don't practice in this climate. We just we believe in the rainy season, we wait for the rainy season, or seasonal agriculture. How can we begin to move away from seasonal agriculture to off-seasonal agriculture?
Okay, so the most simple answer to that question is education. And why I say education is, when you ask people to do off-season farming, and by off-season farming, I'm referring to the green farming and all of those outside rain-fed farming. These are not things that you do trial by error because of the investment that is involved. So I think and I believe that there should be a lot of education around that, awareness that these are possibilities. That's the first way to resolve that. Now, the other way, like I had mentioned, irrigation, is for government to provide facilities for irrigation, and then every other person can do dry season farming. Everybody doing rainy season farming can do dry season. And then thirdly is, I don't believe that off-season farming is something the average, please permit my language, poor farmer can do. And why I'm saying so is because of the funding involved. There has to be a way to graduate a farmer, a system to say, okay, you did this, you did this 1 hectare, it produced, you moved to 2 hectares, it produced, we're doing well. And then we can look at, okay, so can you do an off-season farming? Can you do a green, what was it called now? This green farming in hispanics and all of that. So there has to be that way. Now, you can't just pick somebody and throw into that space. That's not the space to do trial and error because of the funds because of the money that is involved. That's huge money, that's huge investment. And you can even see that statistics again shows that it's only 1% of our population that is doing that. So it's not something that can just be done because we are in this situation. And that's why I said at the initial that we've got to solve our problem based on our circumstance. Our circumstance is that we are generally not too educated. We have a huge population of people farming, rain-fed season farming, and moving them from that, we are looking at 70% of the entire farming population doing rain-fed farming. Moving them to this off-season thing is not something that we will do thoughtlessly. Right. We have to have a national plan for it. It still goes back to coordination. We need a system, and that's the other thing our system does, where it can track that you were productive this season, track that you were productive next season, and then, we can now begin to see that our smallholder farmers are graduating into intermediate farmers and then large farmers, because there is a system to actually track. But as it is, it's a free-for-all. We have several people having several data of different farmers. Why can't we integrate them? All right. So, why can't we have a system where if an INGO is coming to fund, we have a list of farmers that have been producing, and we say, no, these are the ones that we know that will produce, and we have a track record of them. These are the ones we are going to fund. This will take care of the issue of political farming, because truly that has been an issue where money is given to people that are not truly farmers. Well, they are farmers, but they end up not using the money for farming. Let me not accuse anybody.
Some actually use the money to go marry.
And all of that. Yeah.
But then I think that's about the size we can take for now. David is laughing, but Dave, it's true. We saw what happened to the Uncle Boras program. A lot of people did not pay, as a matter of fact.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
And it's still under investigation.
He has warned me not to go there. Mr. Udeme, thank you so much for being on the program today. You never can tell how a conversation will swing when you started. We're hoping that in the not too distant future we'll have more time to talk on other aspects of agriculture as well.